please just give him a kiss?
Come on, ma'am, just have a seat.
Cops slap the cuffs on a mother after her newborn baby dies, and she claims her 4-year-old caused those injuries. I have the story Kristeny Davis told police. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Kristeny Davis is in jail in Oklahoma, charged in the death of her 2-month-old baby boy. A spokesperson with the Norman Police Department will be here to tell us more about the case shortly. It's incredibly sad. 2-month-old babies are completely helpless, and Norman police say Davis claimed her 4-year-old son caused her baby's injuries by throwing him in a ball pit. Davis was booked into jail on February 5th on a charge of second-degree murder as the result of child neglect. But the investigation actually started on January 7th when her baby was taken to the hospital. A probable cause affidavit states, upon initial interview, the defendant stated that she only left OS, that's the baby, unattended with his 4-year-old brother for 3 to 4 minutes before finding OS injured and laying in a small ball pit. The defendant also described an incident that occurred the day before where she witnessed HD, that's the older son, throw OS into that same ball pit, although OS was not injured at that time. The defendant further explained that the older boy would frequently jump into the ball pit from nearby furniture. Police say Davis made this statement after they went to Oklahoma University Children's Hospital after the staff there called about the baby's grave condition. The baby died 12 hours later from multiple skull fractures. The investigation continued, revealing a different story from the one Davis told. The probable cause statement continues. Through investigations, it was discovered that the defendant was consuming alcohol throughout the day and even requested that the father of OS leave work to help pick up the older child from daycare because the defendant was too impaired to drive. Investigations showed the father remained at work, and the defendant ultimately decided to go ahead and drive to pick up the older child from daycare at approximately 15:30 hours. The defendant's messages indicated that her BAC was as high as 1.4 during the day. 1.4 for blood alcohol content is nearly twice the legal limit for driving under the influence. The affidavit continued. Investigations showed that the defendant purchased a pint of whiskey at 0900 hours, that's 9 a.m., this day, and another pint of whiskey at approximately 15:30 hours, that's 3:30 in the afternoon, as she drove to get her older son from daycare. It was also found that after she arrived home with her older son and OS, the defendant's phone was inactive and in a locked state from approximately 1700 hours, that's 5 p.m., to 6:30 p.m., or 18:30. During a follow-up interview, the defendant admitted that the time frame in which OS was unsupervised with her older son, as the defendant was intoxicated and sleeping, was more likely the entire 1.5 hours that her phone was inactive. So police believe during that hour and a half, the baby was fatally injured, suffering internal injuries and those skull fractures. Detectives quoted Davis as saying, "I can't do anything but blame myself." Norman police tracked down the mother and father in a parking lot last week.
Open the door. She's in the vehicle. She's flashing a light at me. Stand by. What was her name again?
Her name should be Kristeny Davis.
Unlock it.
992.
Keep your hands on the window. Occupied one time. She's the only one in the vehicle. She's refusing to open the door. She says she can't open the door and won't unlock it.
I want to tell you about Upside. It's a great free app that will get you cash back on things like gas, groceries, and restaurants. This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. I've used Upside in a number of places, especially when I needed a cup of tea or coffee. I claim an offer on the app, I pay as usual and follow the steps, and I get cash back. It's really, really easy. You can also use Upside at places like Shell, Exxon, 7-Eleven, Taco Bell, and that's just to name a few. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan that QR code that you see on your screen and use our promo code CRIMEFIX to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code CRIMEFIX for extra cash back. Then the baby's father approaches the vehicle.
I told her to keep her hands on the windows. She says she can't unlock it.
Are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
if it's gonna be it's gonna be a murder charge.
Huh?
It's gonna be a murder charge.
Okay. I heard that earlier.
Huh?
I heard that earlier.
What? Okay.
There's a homicide warrant.
Homicide warrant. If her
Are you? Keep your hands present up in the air when you walk this way.
Use that hand.
all right.
No,
Does he have a gun on him?
no,
You don't need to yell at me.
just go. I know. They told you.
Keep coming this way.
They told you that you can let me have
coming this way.
it tomorrow.
Come this way.
Hold on, can I?
Watch out for the okay.
Come this way. Keep your hands away from your waistline, okay? Just come right here.
He
Put your hands on the hood.
has nothing on him.
I'm not asking you anything. Deal with him. Put your hands on the hood.
I remember you guys, dude.
Put your hands right there.
No.
Kristeny, shut up.
Check 3 comes back up.
Hands on the hood, okay? Do you have your weapons on you?
Not accurate.
Put your hands behind your back. And tuck your fingers.
Should I pull my pants up?
No.
Guess what, though? As soon as you said what? You said you're going to catch a charge. I shut the door and left your ass right there, did I not?
Right now, you're going to be
Yeah,
detained
I
until we
know,
figure out
but
what's
why
there,
are
okay?
they- No,
Because you...
All right? You got a male, female detained.
Wherever you...
Okay.
Should I stand up straight or what, man? I mean, I can turn around. You guys are holding me like I'm
Here, real quick.
I ain't going nowhere.
You asked about pulling your pants up. If you want to hook your finger through your belt loop and hold it up, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Let me just lock these so they don't tighten up on you.
Okay. He's gonna make sure. Yeah, guys.
I'm not
I'm locking them so they don't tighten up anymore.
charged for... I walked away, man. I can't do this.
Hey, you're not.
You're good.
Right now, you're not in trouble. You're just being detained, okay?
But it doesn't end there. When officers detain Kristeny Davis, it seems her only concern is kissing the father of her late baby goodbye.
Can I please give him a kiss? Please. That's all I'm asking is for a kiss. Please. Why?
Because this is mine. And I'm in charge right now, okay? Do you have anything on you that's going to poke me or stick me?
No, he's already searched me. He's already
Well, that's
taken
fine. I got to
everything.
still take responsibility, okay? Use the back of my hand, okay? Anything on the waistline?
No.
Pull your hands away from me.
Make sure they get ashes, please.
He gave him some.
Can I please just give him a kiss?
Come on, ma'am. Just have a seat.
Something that's really, really sad about the baby who died, he was born prematurely. Kristeny Davis had created a GoFundMe for that baby last November. The title, Support Baby Owen's NICU Journey. She wrote, "Hey world, this is baby Owen. He decided to come into the world 5 weeks early and make his grand entrance. I started having horrible contractions and went to the hospital to find out this little joy was ready to make his appearance. He is a fighter and a trooper. But being so early brought some challenges that will have him in the NICU for a little while. He has already made leaps and bounds, but still has a long road ahead. With all these changes and the early arrival brought on extra costs, we want the best for our little guy. Anything helps, but most importantly, prayers. I will try and update this as much as possible as we continue on this journey." I want to bring in Sarah Shetler. She is the public information officer for the Norman Police Department. Sarah, this case is an absolute tragedy. A 2-month-old baby boy is dead, and mom is saying that her 4-year-old son was left unattended because she was passed out drunk, I guess, sleeping, and she's not watching her kids.
Yeah, this is a really, really tragic case. for our community and for our investigators. As we responded to that initial call, the injuries in this case were extensive and really difficult for our investigators to work through, and then ultimately come to the reality that such a young child suffered fatal injuries during a time period when they were left unattended and the mother was intoxicated.
I want to start kind of, at the beginning of this story where, at first it sounds like Kristeny Davis is saying that, the child had been injured earlier, and that the child seemed okay. But then it seems like the story kind of changes and evolves as time goes on.
Right. So we first received this information in early January. On January 7th, we were actually contacted by medical staff at a local hospital due to the level of injuries that the child came into the emergency room with. So the parent, the defendant in this case, brought in the child to the emergency room with a pretty extensive head injury. Just based on what they initially assessed the child, they determined that this wasn't a typical accidental fall case. So they initiated the child to get some increased level of care. So they actually air flighted that child to a more specific hospital that cares for children in our area. And that's when we really became contacted and engaged in the case. And so investigators responded to the hospital and began an investigation there. The mother really started with information that there potentially was this terrible accident that occurred with an older child, a 4-year-old child, the baby in a ball pit. And that was really what was initially told to our investigators. As our investigators continued to work through that investigation, more information began to come forward in regards to what exactly led up to that incident on that day, on the 7th, what the mother's behavior was that day, what she was engaged in, and then ultimately about a 1.5-hour time frame where both children were left unattended and ultimately injuries were sustained that led to the death of that young child.
When you guys say ball pit, I mean, I think about those things that are popular these days, with the kids. They're like those plastic kind of little areas with those little plastic balls, and kids kind of just sit in them and play with them. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, a typical small ball pit that people would have in their children's playrooms or residences. Yeah.
And so the story then somehow evolves into, according to the probable cause affidavit, that she was drunk and asleep, and that her phone was inactive for a period of time, and the child allegedly was left with, her older son was left with the baby, and possibly likely caused these injuries.
Yeah, so our investigation really led us to a greater picture of what exactly occurred on that day. Through those investigations, we were able to determine and confirm that the mother had been consuming alcohol throughout the day, had gone to the liquor store multiple times to the day to purchase alcohol, including after picking the older child up from a daycare facility and then ultimately going home. It's through those phone records that we were able to determine that there was this idle period where the phone was inactive, and ultimately the mother, came forward to talking about being intoxicated and sleeping. It was that lack of care for both children, and during that time period that ultimately led to the child suffering fatal injuries that ultimately led to their death.
Skull fractures, I mean, that takes a lot. I would think that would take a lot of force, especially in a baby. Their skulls aren't formed, they're not together yet. I mean, they're not fused. And I don't know. I mean, I would think that would take a lot.
Yes, this is still an active investigation. And so at this point, it's hard to walk into all specifics about exactly what we believe occurred and what evidence is telling us occurred in regards to those injuries. But, we can confirm that the child did suffer blunt force trauma and sustained several injuries that ultimately led to their death. And as to exactly what occurred, that's part of that ongoing investigation.
The arrest video was kind of interesting. You guys released some of the body camera footage of that. she's worried about giving her significant other, I guess, a kiss goodbye. And, he said that he had told them, he was kind of out of there the night before. I don't really know what's going on there. But it appeared obviously they were together when this occurred, when your officers encountered them.
Yeah, so this was a warrant that once became active. Officers began working to locate her, and ultimately were able to locate her in a parking lot. She is with the father of the child that's deceased at the time. Officers initially detain that individual and then ultimately are able to take her into custody. They locate her in a vehicle in a parking lot. She at first is telling officers she doesn't know how to get out of the vehicle, and then ultimately does get out of the vehicle and is taken into custody.
Just a terrible case. I mean, this is a cautionary tale to anybody who, is drinking, day drinking. It sounds like she was highly intoxicated. I think the BAC was 0.14, if I remember correctly. So that's almost twice the legal limit.
Absolutely. And an inability to care for children in that moment. And ultimately, this is an extremely tragic case for all involved, for the family members of this case, for those that were involved in this case. Ultimately, they lost a child in regards to this incident. And so just incredibly tragic and hard for us to investigate as well.
Well, Sarah Shetler, PIO with the Norman, Oklahoma Police Department, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Let's look at that arrest again.
Can I please give him a kiss? Please. That's all I'm asking. Is it for a kiss? Please.
No.
Why?
Because this is mine. I'm in charge right now, okay? Do you have anything on you that's going to put me or stick me?
No, he's already searched me. He's already
That's
taken
fine. I got to
everything.
still take responsibility, okay? Use the back of my hand, okay? Anything on the waistline?
No.
Pull your hands away from me.
Make sure they get ashes, please.
He gave him some.
Can I please just give him a kiss?
Come on, man. Just have a seat.
The father of that baby, he is not facing any charges. I want to make that clear, since he was detained during that arrest of Kristeny Davis. And that little boy, the 4-year-old, he is in the custody of another family member. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.